Boys, that last episode was terrible.
You got exactly what you asked for.
Yeah, I remember you saying...
People are clamoring for your podcast, but they don't want new episodes. They want old episodes. But not old episodes. They want new old episodes.
How did you do that?
Ridiculous. That sounds nothing like me. Now stop joking around. We're gonna give the people what they want. What they really want.
Really, really want?
Really want.
So we're doing the same topic again?
Heavens no, Johnny. That's yesterday's news. Instead of making an old episode new, you're gonna make a new episode old. Later, boys.
Well, I guess it's a good thing we still have the cassette recorder.
Hello, and welcome once again to the Retro Odyssey. I'm your host, Ryan, accompanied, as usual, by my hosts, Matt and Steven.
Hello.
Hello.
It feels like we haven't been here in a while.
Because we haven't.
You're not supposed to admit it. What have y'all been doing this past, definitely not 2 months?
I've been trying to atone for my sins because the last episode, I have an apology to make. I wrote in the title that it is definitely not the 3-year-old pilot episode. I mistyped. I meant to say it definitely is a 3-year-old pilot episode because I even wrote in the description for the episode, we wouldn't lie to you even as an April Fool's joke. We have too much integrity. So, yeah, completely my fault. I apologize. The title should have been definitely is the 3-year-old pilot episode.
Go sit in the corner.
So that's on me. But yeah, that is that's why the last episode was probably sounding a little bit rough.
Oh yeah, oh boy.
We never really recorded it for airing, and I cleaned up as much as I could. Trust me, if you heard the original version, your ears would be bleeding. It did not sound good, but I cleaned it up as much as possible and put that out. So yeah, that was I mean, obviously April Fool's joke kind of thing, but yeah, hopefully it kind of like gives you a little bit of an insight into how we were starting out, what we were trying to do with the format and stuff like that. And the episode, we actually covered 6 games in the episode, and it ended up being less than an hour, which I mentioned to these guys in the chat is less time for those 6 games than we spent talking about Metroid Prime for like one episode. So we were definitely kind of like rushing through that.
Well, I mean, in the pilot episode, we talk about Horace Goes Skiing, and it wasn't even so much that we were talking about the games themselves. It's that we were talking about just like, oh yeah, this was the first game that we ever played, that we remember playing, and then it was like, cool, we've played that game. Next,
yeah, and there were a couple gems in there as well, like Horace Goes Skiing, which I still think is like a really good game, despite how primitive it is.
Well, you know, for being an arcadey game, essentially what is a very arcadey game, it's not bad. It's a very straightforward, get your points, and then go get hit by traffic. I guess you get hit by traffic first.
Yeah, it's one that I played like a hell of a lot when I was a kid. And yeah, it's one that I do still really enjoy. And honestly, when I get my Spectrum next, probably going to be the first thing I play on it. But anyway, going back to what I've been doing this month, I put an album out. It's been about a year since I last put one out. I put out music under the name Sarah Standing Still, which is a title based on a video series I was going to do at one point, but kind of abandoned. But I really like the title, so I released music on that. The album is called Temporal Disturbance, and it is currently on Bandcamp. If you search for Sarah Standing Still on Bandcamp, and you will find it. I've got like 3 albums up there, all kind of like ambient kind of thing. This one was more sci-fi based. The one I did before was more horror based. The one I did before that was just more general ambient. So, go on there, check it out if you want. You can listen to it for free, stream it for free, or you can purchase it for like £4.
One of these days, I'm gonna take your albums and use them as background music when I play RPGs, because it's like some of it would make really good background for a tabletop game.
Oh, that's really smart.
Yeah, go for it.
Like it's especially you take that horror one and play some Call of Cthulhu with it in the background. That works great.
You should promote yourself to people who are looking to soundtrack or looking for soundtracking.
Yeah, maybe. But what have you guys been up to this month or these past 2 months?
Well, not to be late to the game or anything, but I finally sat down and played Breath of the Wild like proper.
Nice.
Yeah, I've only had a copy of it for what? I mean, technically I've had it on the Wii U for years, but I got a copy of it on the Switch well over a year ago. And I played it for a little bit, and I was going in there going, this is going to be a good Zelda game. And it was not the Zelda. It is, because it's not like any other Zelda game, I sort of turned myself off from it. Because it's so wild, it's so unlike anything else. And I put it down, and I didn't go back. I got like through the Great Plateau, and that was it. And finally went back and played it again, and now it is fighting for top 5 Zelda games.
Yeah.
It really has some games to unseat to make it into the top 5, but it's trying, and I gotta say, the more I play it, the more I enjoy it, and also the more I have to, take it and disconnect it from what we traditionally think as 3D Zelda. Because Zelda up to this point has been put into 2 categories, and it's 2D Zelda and a 3D Zelda.
This is a 2D Zelda in 3D.
Yes, and because Breath of the Wild sequel is going to be in the similar vein of the whole open world kind of go do whatever you want, the plausibilities are endless. And I feel like this is going to trend now for open worlds, that open world Zelda is going to become a thing. I am now putting them in its own category, so it is much easier to... By doing that, I'm not going back and going, oh, I missed this from classic Zelda. Oh, I missed this from, from Ocarina of Time. I missed these elements. That's just not what these games are going to have. And it is becoming so much easier to accept that it's a Zelda game, because my initial problem was going, this is an amazing game, but it is a terrible Zelda game. Because I was trying to compare it to Twilight Princess and stuff like that, Majora's Mask, and you just can't do that. You just can't do that.
The better comparison point is the original Legend of Zelda.
It really is. The original Legend of Zelda, and literally Legend of Zelda on the NES, is a really, really good comparison. And it's because the game is weirdly obtuse. Except it's a little bit better because, you have a proper map. And you have the ability to mark stuff down, and you get a little guidance, and you have side quests to help send you around places. But a lot of it's super obtuse, and the secrets are hidden really, really well.
Yeah.
So,
I really like Breath of the Wild. I mean, it's the first Zelda game that I ever completed,
Oh, really?
and I got it. I got it on launch with my Switch, and I just loved it straight away.
I very, very, very much like it. I think that it was overkill. I think it was horrible overkill to say that it is a perfect Zelda game. I think people were just freaking out because it was so ambitious.
Yeah.
But it is quite good. It has some very, very Nintendo-y elements to it. Just like, why would they actually do this? Who thought this was a good idea? And it's because it was Nintendo.
Yeah, like weapon degradation and
Yeah.
not being able to climb in the rain.
It's
Those like really
and-
annoying.
Yeah, well, it's like you can't climb in the rain, and that makes sense. Rocks are going to be slippery. It's already amazing that Link can just climb straight up a sheer cliff. But, like, Link can climb up a wall of pure ice without slipping. So why can't he climb up wet rocks?
Right?
In the sequel, I would like to see a slight, not even a full return to classic Zelda. I don't want that. I want them to continue this open world, but I want to see like a permanent upgrade option, just like you can get the Master Sword and it breaks, which doesn't make any sense. Why would it break? Like, all they had to do to make the Master Sword better and more useful was like the Master Sword does not break. However, the Master Sword is by far not the strongest, like just like the across the board strongest. Like, it is stronger against monsters and it is strongest against Ganon, but it is not strong against like creatures, and it's not super good at like cutting down trees and cutting through things. There are other specific weapons and tools that do
Right.
a much better job. Like, if you're stasising something, you're trying to hit it a whole bunch, the Master Sword just isn't going to do a good job. It's a small one-handed sword.
Right.
You need to use something bigger if you really want to send a rock flying or a box flying.
Use a big bludgeoning weapon.
Yeah, use a big bludgeoning weapon. If you want, like, do not make it the jack of all trades. Make it a very specific weapon that will get you through a lot of fights, but is not the default. There are better options, and you can just find weapons, even though they have, a durability bar. They can do the fight better, but you know that they'll break, so you kind of have to. That way, you're actually kind of managing your inventory once you get the Master Sword, and I want to see that. I want you to be able to get the hero's hammer, and I want you to be able to get the hero's bow. And they should introduce something like grappling hooks, but then you can get the grappling hook, or you just upgrade to the hook shot, and that's the big deal.
Right.
Like, yeah, you have grappling hooks, and they wear out as you use them, and then you get the hook shot, and it is like, it may not be what you need every single time. A grappling hook may do better, but the hook shot's going to get you through 90% of it, and it doesn't break. I also think what would be helpful is you to be able to hit like up a stable, and they have a blacksmithing bench, and you can fix weapons. So if you have yourself a really good claymore, you can dump claymores into it to fix it. Even if they're bad, you can fix this really, really powerful one.
Yeah.
Because that gives it a much better RPG feel, in the vein of like, I guess it would be Bethesda RPGs, where it's like, this is really good, and I'm willing to sacrifice all of these weapons to keep it alive.
Mm-hmm.
Or what was in Majora's Mask? You get it's like the Razor Sword,
Yeah.
and the problem is that it loses its sharpness, and
100 strikes.
Yeah, you get 100 strikes and it loses its sharpness, and you have to like temper it with there's like one item in the game. It's been a while since I've gone and gotten that quest.
The gold dust from the racetrack.
Yeah, you get the gold dust, and then you can temper it, and then it becomes permanently sharp, and also a completely different sword.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, where it's going to be like, oh man, you have a thing, but if you dump some money and give them some raw materials, they can strengthen your sword. I found this sword. It's like, well, this knight sword, it needs to be tempered and strengthened, so it like doubles the life and gives it a little more damage. Little things like that. Things you don't have to do, I think would kind of inject a little bit more of those RPG elements that they were going for, and also give you a little bit more to do, because I know one thing that I'm catching myself getting stuck on is kind of the grind, which I really hate because I don't like the grind usually, but at least it's optional. And I know a lot of people love the grind. So by putting that option in there, I think you'd make a lot of people really happy. And I would like to see I want a real dungeon. A real dungeon.
Yeah.
That was the one thing. I loved the puzzles in the shrines. I loved the puzzles in the Divine Beasts. The Salamander on Doom Mountain, Death Mountain. Mixing up my fantasy IPs here. The mechanic for the Salamander on Death Mountain was great. It was used constantly, but it wasn't obnoxious because it was really quick to flip back and forth, so it felt good. I loved it, but like I got through the bird. Like I finished the bird temple or the Divine Beast in like 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I was just in and out, and it was done.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason the first one took me so long to get through was because I didn't know you could manipulate the divine beast from the map. So I got to a point where I couldn't do anything because I was in the elephant and didn't know that I had to move the trunk to make something happen. So, without that hang up, I would have been done in like half an hour.
Yeah, I got stuck in the elephant for a while, but that's because I kept running around. I kept running around the terminal in the little tiny wheel.
Mm-hmm.
I knew, like, I'm looking at the map and it's right there, and I'm just running around trying to find, like, where is it underwater? Am I missing it? Do I have to blow something up? And I'm literally walking circles around it because it was upside down and I didn't recognize it. But I'd like to see a real dungeon. Other than that, yeah, no, this game can get an 85 out of 100. Maybe even a 90 out of 100. But when it was getting 98s and 99s, I was like, man, you're really overrating this.
I'd agree with an 85.
That's what I dumped. I think I about have 100 hours in now. Maybe a little bit more.
I honestly would have kept playing for longer, but I accidentally completed it.
Well, see, that's...
I think I've mentioned before, I just accidentally walked into Ganon's room and one-shot him.
Well, see, that's what's really funny is I'm actually having more fun on average now that there's like no pressure to go beat Ganon or get the Divine Beasts. I'm going out and exploring and finding the shrines, and I've almost gotten my Fierce Deity set maxed out.
Nice.
I still can't. I mean, I still hit that amiibo every day trying to get the sword. I don't even want it to fight with. I just want to put it on the wall in my house.
Right? Yeah, I still need to get that amiibo.
Anyway, yeah, that's what I've done for the past month and a half. I feel like I played something else. I've been playing some Call of Duty Cold War, surprisingly. Not the campaign, honestly, just the online here and there. I feel accomplished because I made someone super, super salty in the post-game lobby because I was trolling and running around with a knife. And I just had a really, really good game with the knife. And I stabbed him like 4 times right in the face, like right in his face. And he was really, really pissed in the post-game lobby. Like, he called me out and was just, he's trash. And it's like, no, I killed you a lot. I wasn't there for the W's. I was there for the memes, so that felt good. Haven't had a game like that since, but it felt good at the time. But, yeah, played COD, played basically nonstop Legend of Zelda. I've been meaning to play Smash. I heard they dropped a new character and a special secret thank you character, but I haven't seen who it is. I know last month they dropped in Pyrrha and Mithra from Xenoblade.
Yeah.
And I haven't played the games. I haven't played the Xenoblade games, but all I'm really getting from this, especially this, is that Xenoblade is a pretty standard run-of-the-mill Japanese JRPG, big-tittied anime waifu simulator. Because that's exactly what Pyrrha is. Here's the deal. I don't mind them bringing in characters from all these games and stuff. That's the beauty of Smash, is you get this variety of characters. And it's not like Xenoblade has had excessive representation. They haven't.
Yeah.
They have Shulk, and that's it. And from what I can tell, Shulk isn't even like the most popular character. He was just one of the most recent to come to mind.
I mean, he was the main character of the first Xenoblade Chronicles. Like,
Yeah, but from the I guess it'd be the I guess just the Xeno series. He's not like the most popular. Just so happened that he was the most like recent to mind and the most recently visualized. So it made sense
and
to bring him in. And it
probably
was
the easiest to adapt.
yeah, probably the easiest to adapt. He was a smart choice. So bringing in more representation is always great from that. Like, I was stoked when they brought in Sephiroth. I'm glad they didn't go and bring someone in like Squall or something like that. Sephiroth, they brought in a nice icon, even though it's like Final Fantasy VII again. You could have picked someone else. You know, technically, I think Final Fantasy, or not Final Fantasy, Squeenix owns the rights to Geno because it's a Nintendo/Squeenix game. So there might be a little bit of confusion on who owns what.
I would have been down with Vincent if they had brought him in.
See, that would have been cool too. But the nice thing is with Sephiroth is you got more villain rep, and I'm always down for more villain rep.
Right.
So that's a lot of fun. But then it's like you bring in. I'm assuming that Pyra and Mithra are from Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Yes.
Again, I haven't played it.
Neither have I.
So when you think of a game that has jiggle physics, there's really only one IP that you immediately think of, and it's Dead or Alive.
Yes.
But I'll be damned if Smash Ultimate doesn't have a little bit of jiggle physics going on for her. Like, yeah, it's mild, but it's there.
And see, what's weird is like I've played the beginning of Xenoblade Chronicles and the beginning of Xenoblade Chronicles X. Neither one had the anime waifu thing going on. And I mean, I don't know what Chronicles 2 is like, but like, you know, like you said, there's definitely some emphasis being placed there.
Yeah. So, not entirely sure what happened. I'm not complaining. I'm complaining a little bit, but it's not like real complaining. You know, I mean, well, to be fair, you know what? I'm complaining about Xenoblade Chronicles, but Fire Emblem kind of became that a little bit too, and sometimes in a creepy way.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I haven't played the newer Fire Emblems. Like I think the most recent one I've played was Shadow Dragon on the DS. So like I'm not looking forward to that element, especially with Fates, where it's like, oh hey, your family members are all hitting on you with their giant chests.
And was it Three Houses with rated T for petting?
Oh God. I don't know anything about Three Houses. I just know Byleth is one of the best Smash characters of all time.
Yeah, dude, Byleth is super dope. It's because she's so freaking different.
Well, and see, Byleth is exactly the Smash character I wanted out of a Fire Emblem game, because there are so many different weapon types in the game, and all we saw in Smash was swords and the books from Robin. Like, I wanted to see the other weapon types, and I got all of them in one character. And
well, I was just
amazing.
I was just saying, it is exactly the character you wanted. Dies like a lightweight, kills like a heavyweight.
Yeah.
Objectively, should be a terrible, terrible character, but is a lot of fun to play.
Yeah, like she has quickly become one of my mains.
Oh, that's who the new Smash character is. It's a Pokemon. Because we needed more Pokemon in the game. I think it's the soccer-playing rabbit from Sword and Shield. No, they couldn't give us Blaziken. They had to go and give us the brand new Pokemon.
Well, they have to advertise the new games.
Fair enough, but shoot. Anyway, that's all I've been really playing. Except for the Smash. I haven't really played. I played a little bit of Smash last month, and that was it. I let myself down. I'll never become a super pro at this rate.
Speaking of big titty anime waifus, I played a Yoko Taro game. I finally got around to playing Nier Automata. I've had it for years. And we've been having a near crossover raid with Final Fantasy XIV these past couple of years. And before the third one came out, I thought I should really kind of like play Nier Automata to kind of like get some of the context for this. And yeah, so I'll play through all of that, and it's really good. It's a really solid action RPG. Probably one of my favorite game soundtracks ever.
Nice.
It is really, really solid. The combat's like quite hard in the game. It is kind of like a lot of almost like shooter dodging, like shmup dodging. You're dodging a lot of orbs. I mean, it does actually have like shmup sections in it, but you can turn on auto chips, which automates combat and automates dodging to a certain extent, which a lot of people are going to say, oh, you're just cheating the game and cheating yourself, but they can fuck off. I don't care.
Yeah, piss off.
I played it with the auto chips on because I was having trouble with the combat, and yeah, I loved it. It's a very deep philosophical game, and you have to replay it multiple times to get the full thing. There are 5 main endings and 21 kind of like jokey endings because there are 26 in total. There's A to Z. I probably got like 2 or 3 of the joke endings. I didn't like go out of my way to do them, but the main 5 endings, I got those, and they're really, really good. And the storytelling is brilliant. It is kind of like a complex story that I think I mentioned a couple months ago that Yoko Taro is kind of like if Tetsuya Nomura made sense with his stories. I mean, Tetsuya Nomura makes sense eventually with his stories, but Yoko Taro knows how to actually create a narrative that makes sense in one game.
He's like a fusion of Tetsuya Nomura and Hideo Kojima.
Like I say, it's a very deep philosophical story. There's a lot of humor in it as well, though. The machine life forms, there's a lot of Portal influence in there, I think. Like the way that GLaDOS and the turrets and stuff act, a lot of the machine life forms kind of like do that kind of thing, and they'll come out with like these funny lines, and it's just, honestly, it is something that I would really, really recommend. As far as action RPG goes, I didn't think it was as good as Dragon's Dogma, which is another one with a like deep philosophical story, but it definitely hooked me, and I'm looking forward to playing Nier Replicant, which has just come out as well, to get even more context for the Nier crossover raids, because a lot of the third crossover raid includes a lot of elements from Nier.
Well, now is Nier Replicant a sequel?
No.
It's
so when they released the original Nier in Japan.
Oh, that's right. It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they released 2 different versions of it, and
We talked about this.
Yeah, and we only got one of them.
That's right.
The one we got in the West had an older protagonist, and he's searching for a cure for his daughter. And the one in the East, you're playing as the girl's brother, and you're searching for a cure for your sister. It's just the age of the protagonist was switched around a bit. But again, same soundtrack guy. I've listened to like quite a bit of the soundtrack, and it is phenomenal. I mean, it's all on streaming as well. Like, definitely check out that soundtrack.
Will do.
So yeah, I've been playing that, and I've also kind of like got quite into a mobile game as well. I don't generally play mobile games, but I started playing Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. It is kind of like free-to-play gacha-style game, and it's got a hell of a lot of content. Even if you don't like pay for anything, there's a really long, involved story there. There's a a lot of kind of like variety in the combat. I mean, you've got characters from all over the Final Fantasy series, and the story involves kind of like a lot of these going on to a different world. They've like been transported to this world, similar to the other Dissidia games, and they've got to try and kind of like save this world. The combat is like turn-based, kind of like classic Final Fantasy style, with a lot of different abilities that you can unlock, and it's just generally a hell of a lot of fun. And I have been killing my phone battery with that like several days. I've literally played until my phone turned off. But I'm about a month, maybe 2 months into that, and it is a hell of a lot of fun.
See,
Sounds like a good time.
I've tried some of the gacha games. Like I tried Final Fantasy Record Keeper, I tried Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, and I tried Fire Emblem Heroes, and like I enjoyed them, but I for some reason I just cannot stick with a mobile game. Like I always end up falling off, and I don't know why.
I usually do as well, but I would recommend giving up Romnia like a bit of a go. See how you get on with that.
Mm-hmm.
I have a really powerful team at the moment going of Cloud, Y'shtola, and the Emperor, and I occasionally switch in Onion Knight when I need a bit more melee. Like I said, it is a lot of fun, and it's free, and you can do a hell of a lot of stuff without paying.
Yeah, I mean, I'll look into it. I've got the rest of them. I might as well add that one in. But yeah, it's it's not battle royale like First Soldier will be, so it's worth checking out at least.
Yeah, and as well as those, a new patch came out, Final Fantasy 14, so I've been playing that. New story content, new dungeon, the third part of the Neo raid, which I mentioned earlier on. So I've been spending a hell of a lot of time in that. And that actually brings us neatly on to what Steven's been playing this month as well.
Yeah, because my Kingdom Hearts fervor kind of subsided and was very quickly replaced by Final Fantasy. So in the past and since we last recorded, I started back up on Final Fantasy 14, and I've also played bits of Final Fantasy 13 and Final Fantasy 13-2. I bought a copy of the original Final Fantasy Type 0 for the PSP, but because it was only released in Japan, it's all in Japanese, so I can't play it yet. But I do have that.
I've got that on PS4, but I've not tried it yet.
Oh, same. I've had it on PS4 for a while now, but it's one of those that I plan to get to once I get 13 played and recorded. But yeah, so I've been doing that. I mean, I finished recording Mario 64 on the Switch, which
Nice.
it's like the third time I finished it. So it's very similar to all the other times.
120 stars, baby.
Oh yeah, I like at this point, if I play the game, I'm getting 120. Like I don't do less than 100% on that game. Oh, I started playing Power Rangers Battle for the Grid.
I heard it's really good.
It is like so. Okay, this might be the fighting game that breaks through the barrier for me, because like I've actually sat down and had training sessions with a friend in Injustice, and like it was not clicking for me. This might be the fighting game that does it. And if it had to be a Power Rangers game to do it, then so be it. But like, it's really good. I like a lot of the characters that they've chosen, and I like that there is a beefy amount of single player content, and it doesn't have to be fighting other people online where I will almost certainly get my ass handed to me.
Right.
But yeah, so I've been playing that. I actually haven't played much else on the Switch, I don't think. Yeah, I mean that's About it. Like most of my time right now is Final Fantasy 14 because I'm trying to get through that before Endwalker comes out. And I finally got to level 30 with my with my primary character. So they're now a paladin, which is nice. And basically working through that and leveling up all my crafting skills, because if you level up one, you kind of have to level up a bunch of them.
Yeah, they do complement each other a lot.
It's like, oh, I need this particular type of leather to make the next armor piece. Well, you can't buy it. You have to make it as leather worker. Okay, how do I do that? Well, you have to go get this thing as a miner. It's like, okay.
Yeah, it's a good idea to level them all together. But it's funny that you should say that you like just got your level 30 paladin, because I just got my level 30 paladin yesterday.
Nice.
I did all the DPS first. I'm currently working my way through the tanks. I'm nearly capped on my Dark Knight, but I got Gladiator to level 30 yesterday and did the Paladin quest.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little slower than some of the other tanks I've played, but I'm sure it'll speed up once I get more abilities.
I don't know what I'm gonna do as far as switching classes later, because like right now it's basically just a sprint. 30 levels of Gladiator, 30 levels of Paladin, and then 30 levels of Gunbreaker. But I guess once I get to max level on Gunbreaker and finish the story content, I'll see where I'm at. Because my other character on a different server is a Lancer, and the whole point was to make him a Dragoon. But I'm not sure what I'm going to do as far as changing classes up. I actually really like being a tank because it's super easy. I don't have to worry about anything. I just get in front of the boss, sit there, and whack it.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it does ramp up in difficulty at later levels, and there is other stuff that you need to do, but generally, I'd say like 75% of all bosses, you literally just do that. You just point it away from the group and just tank it.
Yeah. So that's fun. I'm really looking forward to getting to see Gunbreaker, because like I love the idea of gunblades, and I love Lightning's gunblades because they unfold and whatnot. I'm not particularly fond of Squall's gunblade because it's just kind of simplistic, so I'm looking forward to seeing some different styles.
I believe you get the one that Thancred uses in 14.
Oh, nice.
Which is kind of like a really nice model. I believe you get that like once you've capped it, if I'm not mistaken, which I might be. It's been a while since I've been on my Gunbreaker, but it's a fun class to play. And plus, as a tank, you're always going to get like fast Qs as well. I mean, not quite as fast Qs as you'll get as a healer, but still a hell of a lot faster than DPS.
Yeah, and I mean honestly, the easier I can make finding a game, the better, because I'm playing at suboptimal times for my data center. So like, I'm playing between 12 and 6 a.m. and there's not that many people on the East Coast active at that time.
There's usually enough people on to get groups though. Unless you queue for PvP, because no one does PvP. I've tried queuing for it several times and I've never got a PvP match.
I don't want to do PvP at all. Like, it has no interest for me. The only PvP I want is basically Gold Saucer, Chocobo Racing, Triple Triad, and even then, I would rather play Triple Triad against NPCs than actual people, because again, actual people will be way better than I am.
Well, I actually did that last week. I signed up for an open tournament. of Triple Triad, and I was the only one who signed up, so I got put against all NPCs, and I actually came out first.
Cleaned house.
Yeah, which gives you a nice. I can't remember what card you get for coming first, but it was kind of like quite a rare, like high quality card.
Yeah,
I do like Triple Triad.
yeah. Triple Triad is good. I actually like the chocobo racing in this. Like the chocobo racing in 7 obviously was like, was a highlight, but it did get really samey after a while, and it was pretty simple because it was just, it was hold accelerate, hold stamina, and win. Like, especially once you get to the gold chocobo, it's like, oh, you're 30 seconds and you're done.
Yeah, I mean it is clearly based on the one from 7. It seems.
Yeah.
But I used to do it like a while ago. I don't think I've jumped into it for about a year or so.
I mean, like chocobo racing is my end game. Like, I'm gonna be a chocobo breeder because I've been waiting for a game to be able to do that in since 7. So I like that is what I plan to spend my time doing in the end game. And I don't know, maybe I'll get into the fashion aspect. I don't know. I'm sure there's some amazing stuff, but yeah, right now it's just sprinting to get to Endwalker, which I don't remember us talking about this, but Endwalker is introducing data center travel.
Yes.
I somehow I missed that in the announcement, so I saw that for the first time like a week and a half ago, and I was like, "Wait, hold up."
Yes, I mean I'm not sure if there will be kind of like restrictions on it, whether they're doing it by region or what. But if you can do it internationally, then great.
Yeah, because that would be amazing. Because like the friends I have that are on the same server as my my current character aren't playing right now, and I've got a friend on my other server with my Lancer, but I'm not playing that character right now, so it's like I'm just running through by myself, which thankfully 14 lets you do that. I mean, that's I think the reason it sticks with me so well is that it's story based and I can play it mostly by myself, at least in the beginning. But yeah, I mean, introducing travel, number one, allows me to hit the peak times in other places, and will let us finally do something.
Yeah, I mean if you're playing up to kind of like 6 a.m. Your time, that's generally when I like finish work and get on myself.
Yeah.
Like a few hours later in my time, like around midday or so.
Yeah, so that's definitely something we'll have to keep an eye on when it comes out and when I get leveled, because it is going to take some time.
I mean, it's still about 6 months away, yeah. Anyway,
Yeah,
so you've got plenty of time to level.
Yeah, and just gotta burn through those quests, which fortunately they're usually not complicated.
They're generally pretty straightforward. The only really roadblock to questing is when you've got to go through a dungeon.
Yeah.
But even then, as a tank, you're going to get generally quick queues, like whatever time of the day you're playing.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's basically what I've been doing. Like all of my time recently has been dumped into Final Fantasy 14. When the fervor slows a little bit, I'll probably jump around a bit. But yeah, right now that's basically where I'm at. That and working on Super Sentai stuff because I've got a whole bunch of fan translations of Super Sentai that I'm converting into Blu-rays for our personal use, so I don't have to lug a hard drive around the house.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's mostly what I've been doing.
Ah, cool. Thanks, listeners, for tuning in to our Final Fantasy podcast again.
I contributed a lot.
I was, I was just about to say we'd better stop because Ryan's had his mic muted for like 20 minutes, and you just unmuted the moment I was about to say it.
I have no contributions to that conversation at all. I'm just happy to be here.
Oh, we're happy to have you here for our Final Fantasy podcast.
Formerly the Kingdom Hearts podcast.
I mean, look, I you know, at this point, we're just hurtling towards releasing, you know, our own spin-off podcast about Square Enix called The World is Square. So,
I'd listen to that.
That's a really good title. Did you just come up with that?
that is a deep cut reference to Final Fantasy VI.
Ah. Oh, is that an Ozma reference?
No, it's the answer to a puzzle late game in Final Fantasy VI.
Ah. Because I know that Ozma does turn into a square at some point. At least it does in 14.
I'm trying to think now. No, it's there's a puzzle in Final Fantasy VI where you've got like a bunch of scrambled letters and you have to unscramble them, and it spells out the world is square.
All right. We'd better stop. He's muted his mic again. If that's all we've played, shall we jump into news?
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool. Okay, so the news this month, as you might imagine, because we've been away for 2 months, has been quite a lot. So I've kind of trimmed it down to the big ones. And apologies to Ryan. We'll start with this and get it out of the way. The Final Fantasy XI reboot has been cancelled.
I am livid.
It was a reboot for mobile, porting over the entire game, and it was rumored that may lead into kind of like a more extensive reboot for PC. I mean, it is still going on PC, but it's kind of showing its age quite a bit. But they've decided to cancel it, unfortunately.
Those bastards.
Well, okay, so real quick question, because I don't want y'all to go on to a hour-long talk about it.
Well,
but Final Fantasy... crossing my fingers here. Final Fantasy XI was the other RPG.
MMO.
Or MMORPG.
Yes.
So, what mechanically are they like worlds different? Like as far as structurally?
Well, so I don't know a ton about 11. I've played maybe like 5 minutes of it. But 14... Well, okay, so the original Final Fantasy 14 was more similar to 11 than the current Final Fantasy 14.
Okay.
The current Final Fantasy 14 was developed in an entirely different way than 11, and like, again, I don't know for sure, but I think the PS4 version of 14 works a lot differently than the PS2 version of 11 did. But I think 11 was closer to other MMOs where, you know, you're like, again, it's hard to say, but like, I think it was a lot more like other MMOs than 14 is.
I think it was a lot more reliant on group content.
Yes.
And stuff like that. Whereas with 14, the focus is more on single player, at least until you get to endgame, with bits of multiplayer like peppered in between.
Yeah.
But 11 was kind of like more multiplayer. And in terms of differences, I mean, they're like completely different worlds, completely different storylines. It's just like an online Final Fantasy game. Like, it's as different as 10 is to 13. Well, maybe maybe not that different. But
that's a bad example.
But, okay, I guess what my question was, would it be impossible for them to basically make a Final Fantasy 11 expansion to 14?
Probably not. Like I think that's they could probably put they could probably put a bunch of the content in, like, as far as like, you know, weapons and like a whole bunch of references, have like a raid that's themed around it. Like, they could probably do all of that.
We've had a crossover quest line.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. I mean, like literally one character from 11 kind of like found herself in Eorzea suddenly, and
Oh, okay.
and there was a whole quest line around that.
Well, that's neat.
Well, okay then.
But in terms of like porting all the content over, I mean, like I said, 11 is still going, so I'm not sure there would be a real need for that. Plus, it's a very expensive undertaking as well.
Wait,
Yeah.
I thought 11 was dead.
No,
Huh?
11's still running. That's the thing. Is like I could go. Well, I mean, I don't have a subscription, but I could go play Final Fantasy 11 right now.
On your
Like-
PS2?
No. Okay,
No,
so
no. PC.
the 360 and PS2 versions of Final Fantasy 11 have been shut down.
Oh, okay. I thought there was an announcement about that quite a while back.
Yeah, this is how messed up this is. In 2017, they shut down the PS2 version because that had stayed running the whole time. I picked up a PS2 copy of Final Fantasy 11 in like 2015. I was like, oh, sweet, I can jump in there and record some before they shut it down. But they had already turned off new activations on PS2 at that point. It's like, dang it. So I have physical copies of 11 for 360 and PS2 that just their only purpose is to sit on the shelf.
Well, I wonder if there's some of these old games that have no business being alive anymore are still live on custom servers.
Well, I mean, yeah, like that was the whole thing with WoW was there were vanilla servers running for a while, and then Blizzard was like, "Wait, we can make money on that."
Yeah, but yeah, some of these people own and push their own custom servers that still support the game.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if Final Fantasy II has any of that going on for Final Fantasy II. The PlayStation 2 has any of that going on for Final Fantasy 11.
I have no idea. I'm not even sure how that would work on the PS2.
I mean, I know that there are private servers for PC, but
right.
PS2, I think factoring in server costs as well, it would be too niche.
Yeah,
probably
for like anyone to run.
I mean, I think even the 360 would be rough to pull that off.
360 is more of a possibility than PS2. Purely because the network features cross over into the later consoles.
But it is still probably too niche of an undertaking for someone to do it.
But that is what this reboot was meant to be for mobile.
Yeah, and it's really a bummer because like I was looking forward to seeing that and seeing if like because for the longest time, you know, like Final Fantasy XI's fans were diehard dedicated 11 fans, and when 14 came out, a bunch of them refused to play it, and then when it was bad, they really refused to play it. But when Realm Reborn came out, a lot of them jumped over because it was good now. And like I have a friend who was a diehard 11 fan, refused to touch 14 because of the bad one, and when Heavensward came out, he finally gave it a try and was like, okay, this is better. This is good. This is my new MMO. So like 11 has lost a lot of their fan base to 14 just because of how freaking good it became. So it would have been interesting to see a reworked version of 11 come out and see if, you know, these two MMOs could actually still compete with each other. Like, it's crazy to think of splitting the Final Fantasy fan base like that, but it's basically something they could do.
Works for RuneScape.
I mean, yeah, there is that.
RuneScape Classic is still going.
Yeah.
But 11 is still getting content as well, like on PC.
Yeah. I mean, like, I have the Ultimate Seekers Edition, like, just because I bought it, you know, years and years ago. I do plan on trying to play through it if I can.
Yeah, me too.
Just to get everything recorded. But like, you know, it's one of those things that's like it would have been really great to have a newer version to work with. It's such a bummer because that would have been really cool to see.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, that's not going to be. Maybe at some point in the future they'll pick up plans again and have another look. But yeah, for now it's gone, unfortunately. But now we've got the Final Fantasy news out of the way.
Sorry for poking that bull.
Sony did a fuck, and then they did an unfuck, but
still kind of a fuck.
Yeah. So so Sony announced that they were going to shut down the PlayStation 3, PSP, and PS Vita stores, which is a fuck.
Which made a lot of people very angry, and is rightly regarded as a bad move.
Yeah. Basically, there's a hell of a lot of games that are exclusive to Sony's online content for those three consoles. Not to mention the fact that there's a quite big library of PlayStation 1 games available to purchase for those consoles as well.
There are games that will disappear forever if they do that.
Yeah, a lot of games are not available physically, and even the ones that are available physically, like stuff like the PS1 games, difficult to get hold of.
Yeah.
So there was a big uproar for like several weeks about this. I mean, I went on the PS3 store and bought a bunch of stuff. Stephen, I know you did as well.
Yeah, I spent like $150.
Yeah, and then they kind of like turned around and said, "We've changed our minds. We're still closing the PSP store, but we're going to keep open the PS3 and PS Vita stores." So it's sad that the PSP store is going away, but we will still have the others for now. I am convinced that the days are still limited.
Yes,
but they're keeping them up for now. One thing I didn't see mentioned that I would be interested to know is stuff that you purchase through the PS3 store still able to be played on the PSP? Because currently you can play PS1 classics on the PSP.
Yes.
PSP can play a lot of your purchases that you've made on the PS3 store for PS1 games. Like I bought Crash Team Racing on the PS3, and I can play it on the PSP. I can like download it as well. So I don't know if that functionality is going to still be there. Will I still be able to access the like new games that I buy on PS3 for PS1? I mean, obviously not new, but if the PSP store shut down tomorrow and I went on the day after to the PS3 and bought a PS1 game, would I be able to access that on the PSP?
Right. That's a very important question.
And I've not seen that mentioned. But I mean, I literally went through the entire store of PS1 classics and I bought a whole bunch of them. So I do have access to them. Like, I bought all the Final Fantasies ages ago. I've bought all the Suikoden games, Choriniki, a bunch of stuff. So I do have those available, but future purchases, if I do find something I like, we need to know if that will still be playable.
Yeah, because I mean, like I picked up basically everything Final Fantasy from 1 to 10-2. I've picked up on PS on the PlayStation Store, and then I picked up. I think I got all the Suikoden games. But yeah, like that's very important question, because originally what people were saying was that you would still be able to download your purchases from the PlayStation Store when they were shutting down all three, but they haven't made a specific announcement one way or another.
Yeah, we'll have to see what we do, but like I said, I can see them going away completely at some point. This isn't a cancellation of their plans; it's a delay of their plans.
Yeah.
Realistically, they can't keep these storefronts open forever.
Well, no, and we acknowledge that.
But, like, it does seem early. It's far too early for the PS3 to go under. I mean, how long was the Wii? Well, really, the Wii storefronts closed a year or two ago.
The main one that arguably should still be up for a few years is the PS Vita. But of course, Sony has completely abandoned that, so they're going to shut that down before they shut the PS3 down.
Right. Or they should, anyway, you'd think.
Yeah, because the PS Vita just doesn't have anywhere near the same install base as a PS3.
Which is a shame. It's such a good piece of hardware. It's just Sony's so terrified of hacks that they abandoned it.
Yes, shame. And the boss of the company thinks that no one plays retro games.
Because he's a dick.
Yeah. But yeah, moving on to other news then. Resident Evil 4's coming out again, this time in VR. It's coming out later this year in a VR remake.
Sure, why not?
It's switching it to a first-person view, obviously with VR.
Right.
But I don't have VR. I can't afford VR. If I did, I would get it because I have like every version of Resident Evil 4. But it's interesting, if somewhat odd.
Mm-hmm.
With a Resident Evil 4 remake actually in production at the minute, it seems odd that they would do a VR version of the original.
Gotta sucker that money out of people somehow.
And it's going to be for the Oculus Touch as well. Is it? Oh no, the Oculus Touch is the name of the controller. It's the Oculus Quest 2 that it's coming out of, which is the one owned by Facebook. And it's going to be exclusive to that.
Oh, that's even worse.
You would have thought that it would come out on PlayStation. But never mind. It's not something that I can afford to get into. The last piece of news that I have is quite an interesting one. The Evercade, which is a little handheld console that has a lot of company-specific cartridges, like you have like a Daydreams cartridge and stuff like that, a load of retro games on them. They are releasing a console called the Evercade VS, which is going to be using the exact same cartridges. So basically, everything that you could play on the handheld version, you will now be able to play on a TV in 1080p. That's pretty cool. I mean, the original Evercade had a few issues at launch, I think most of which have been ironed out. And I've heard nothing but good things recently about the Evercade. I mean, it's a nice, well-designed handheld console with quite a large library for it. It's quite unique to have a cartridge-based console these days. But well, obviously you've got the Switch, but like aside from that, it's generally not something you see. So it has like that retro appeal as well.
Did you notice on the Evercade Versus, the controllers just look absolutely fucking terrible, but more importantly, the top opens up like a SNES front loader or a SNES.
Yes, it does.
And that was a nice little touch. I saw that and I was like, ooh.
And you can put two cartridges in at once, so you can easily switch between like a library of games, like on two different cartridges. As far as the controller goes, I actually think it looks good. I like the colors on it.
The colors are fine. The design looks wonky, and I obviously it's all visually, but that D-pad does not look good.
I would have to play it and find out. It looks decent enough for me, but it's a decent price as well. To be honest, it's coming out in November. It's going to be £90 in the UK, $100 in the US, and €100 in Europe for a new retro console, cartridge base. That's pretty decent.
Yeah,
I mean that's less than what it cost me for my Neo Geo Mini, which obviously has a set selection of games on it. It already has a large and growing library as well.
Part of the reason that it's better is that these are actually like licensed and not just like, because you can buy terrible, basically like retro pie boxes,
right,
with crappy cases on them, with crappy controllers that have a bunch of games and a bunch of bootleg games and really questionably sourced software.
This is super interesting.
The retro pies, I mean, I have one myself. It has.
But I'm talking about the ones you can pick up like in the mall.
Those ones are usually terrible.
They're usually awful.
But as far as like the RetroPie goes, I mean, like I have one with a hell of a lot of games on it. I don't use it all that often because still I generally I'm kind of like of the mind that if something is legally available and affordable, I will get it.
Right.
Yes,
You know, so
absolutely.
I'd like to add the addendum in my language.
Oh yeah, obviously. But the fact that everything on the Evercade is visually licensed and they all run great, as far as I'm aware, you know, it's a nice little prospect which I will probably pick up.
I would actually strongly consider this if I did not already have a massive collection of physical games that I can install on a Polymega.
Yeah.
Like, this is basically a strong competitor for the Polymega, and it basically comes down to, are you a digital person or a physical person?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, the Polymega is going to be more powerful, and it will have it will support a larger library.
Yeah, because the Polymega goes to discs, which I don't think this one does.
No, I mean this is like a purely curated library.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they put out certain licensed cartridges that they put together themselves, and you know, so it's different to the Polymega in that you use your existing games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that like it for someone that is just now discovering retro gaming or who does not have their old collection anymore, this could be great. Especially with some of these Atari collections, Namco Museum, like some of these could be really good if someone just doesn't have their old stuff anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me just check what the cartridges actually cost. Actually, I don't think they're too expensive. So I'm looking at prices in the UK, and I'm looking at like £12 Atari Collection 1, £12 Namco Collection 2.
Mm-hmm.
The Atari one's got 20 games on it. Namco one's got 11 games on it. So they're affordable.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Well, it's just kind of funny because it's like, okay, so there's an Atari collection on the Evercade, and then the Atari VCS is going to have Atari game collections on it too, that some may be free, but also that console costs $300. So, Atari, what are you even doing?
I mean,
Sucking. The answer was sucking.
There's like a Worms collection.
Oh, see, now I'm down for that. Worms is a great series.
Oliver Twins collection, Atari Lynx collection. The Worms one has, well, it's only got 3 games on it: Worms, Worms Armageddon, and Worms Blast.
Okay, so I'm curious about when did that Worms collection release?
Oh, it's a pre-order, May 28th, 2001. So it's coming out in a month.
So fun fact about that, I don't know if we covered this in a news bit a while back. Worms Armageddon, which came out like a hell of a long time ago.
The update for it, we did.
Okay, yeah.
That, yeah.
Okay, yeah, we did talk about that. I thought we did. But yeah, it has a proper update, which blows my mind.
I'm assuming that this cartridge will have the updated version as well.
No doubt. But yeah, 22-year-old game.
It's bound to, because it is officially licensed as well.
Great game. Might be better than World Party, and World Party was like cream of the crop. Anyway.
That is all I have for the news. As far as game releases go, I'm not really seeing much in the way of retro releases, apart from Famicom Detective Club. 2 games coming out on Switch, which were kind of like Famicom visual novel things. And they originally came out in like 1988, and they have like a full remaster coming out for the Switch.
Yeah, I saw that.
And honestly, they look decent. I looked at the price and decided not to get them, but if they hit a sale, that looks like something that might be interested in getting. Shin Megami Tensei 3 is getting a remaster. That is coming out on May 25th, PlayStation 4, Switch, and PC. And the big one for the month is Resident Evil Village. Obviously, that is coming out in a week's time. as of recording. It's coming out on May 7th, and I am really looking forward to that.
Now, again, it's been a couple months. Did we mention the Skyward Sword HD in, what would that have been, March?
Oh, I don't think we did, actually.
Skyward Sword is getting an HD port, and that releases in June.
Yay.
So, here's the deal. I'm glad that that game is getting a port. I'm mildly irritated, because I think that was the only Wii exclusive Zelda game.
Yes.
I'm glad that it's getting a port because of that. It was exclusive to one console. It's not a terrible game. It's getting a port. I'm really mad that they didn't go and do, like, a collection in the vein of... Like, okay, remember the collection they did on the GameCube?
The GameCube, where it was...
It was like
Zelda 2, Ocarina of Time, and Majora's Mask.
Yeah, Majora's Mask. I'm pretty sure... And it had a demo for Wind Waker on it, too.
Yeah.
Or it came with a demo disc.
Maybe?
I'm bummed that we didn't get a collection like that, because that collection now, if you go find it, is like $60, $70.
That's actually not a horrible price for it.
It's not, except for that it's it's 4 games, and one of them no one wants to play anyway. All I'm really hoping for at this point, honestly, if we're being 100% honest, is before the end of the year, for Zelda's 35th anniversary, they announce that they're making a Zelda 2 remake.
That would be cool.
If they could do a Zelda 2 remake, I think that would be absolutely outstanding. Now, the alternative is they reveal, because they call it a sequel to Breath of the Wild. The alternative is that Breath of the Wild, title pending, is that it's actually a remake of Zelda 2, using Breath of the Wild mechanics, and they've basically blindsided all of us. And I only say that, the only reason I say that is, one, it makes perfect sense to me that Zelda 2 should happen right before Zelda 2 should be happening right before Breath of the Wild, because Ganon is sealed away. He's been sealed away as of Zelda. Zelda 2, you have to go and wake up the princess, because if you don't, Calamity Ganon... Oh my god, is Breath of the Wild already sort of a half remake of Zelda 2 anyway? They kind of took the concept and just redid it. Because in Zelda 2, Zelda is asleep and you have to go fight Shadow Link, or else Ganon wakes up.
Yeah.
I've never beaten the game. I want to, but at the same time I refuse to. It's so bad. But it always made sense to me that if Zelda 2 is the whole a severance in the timeline where Calamity Ganon exists because Link failed. Not that I want them splitting the timeline up a whole bunch again, but it would make sense that that's where Breath of the Wild comes from.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I don't know, like, my favorite theory as far as that is that Breath of the Wild is where the 3 timelines reconverge. Because there are things in it from each timeline, but especially from that original timeline, like the yellow stripe on his hat.
Yeah.
So it's possible. I mean, Zelda 2 is the end of that line.
Is it? I thought it was a little farther up.
No, like Legend of Zelda and Zelda 2 are the last 2 in the Downfall timeline.
Well, then my headcanon stands.
Yeah, it's totally valid.
That's just going to go with headcanon now. That goes in now with my favorite headcanon for Zelda. Part of the other favorite headcanon is that none of Wind Waker happens. It's all Link recounting his playtime imagination stories to his grandma, because everything is so outlandish in that game.
Right.
Here, you have to wear this tunic that you hate. You don't want to wear it, and you have to wear the tunic of the hero because it's tradition. And then he storms off and goes, "Merp, this is dumb." And then he goes and plays in the woods with his sister and talks to the old man who teaches him how to fight with a sword. Air quotes there. Teaches him sword combat. And then It makes sense for at the end of the day. He's like, you're not going to believe what happened today. We were out, and then a giant bird stole. What's her name? I can't remember the sister's name. And then, oh wow, that's amazing. Yeah, and then there were pirates. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, and then I had to go and had to go fight monsters and save her. But then she got flown away to an island. Oh yeah, and then I met a boat. Whoa, you met a boat? Yeah, the boat talked. Oh, what else? Oh, and it turns out that he was the king of Hyrule. And it's just like a 10-year-old would come up with this.
Yeah.
This is all outlandish stories that a 10-year-old would come up with. And in my mind, headcanon, Wind Waker, none of that happens. Not one single part of that story happens, which then makes sense that in the future he goes on to become the hero of the rails or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And what does he do? Well, he's not the hero of Hyrule. He just went and became a train conductor. And that's when things actually get a little weird. Anyway, speaking of, I'm going to segue back to Breath of the Wild. When you were all playing, did you notice that did any of you find the giant whale skeletons, the giant leviathan skeletons out in the or leviathans or titans or whatever they call them?
Yes.
I found one of them. There's one in the far northeast of the map, isn't there?
Yeah, there's
three of them, I think.
Yeah, I think there's 3 total.
Yeah.
I think I only
because
found
one of them's in a mountain, like in a mountain cave.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to go find that one because I know there's a shrine there. I haven't actually found it yet. But then there's one down in the southwest that is in the Gerudo Desert. And then there's another one that I can't remember off the top of my head where it is. But the important thing is that the one down in the Gerudo Desert is the skeleton of the windfish.
Oh.
When you look at it, it's very blatantly a whale skeleton, but if you get up on top of it, it has 2 little wing bones coming off near its dorsal fin.
Huh. I did not think about that.
And looking into where the other ones were, it seemed, because I haven't really played through Skyward Sword, the other one is the giant whale deity from Skyward Sword.
Okay.
So apparently at some point, all these whale gods died, and they've just been being sunbaked in Hyrule for, however many thousands of years.
Right.
Well, that's grim.
Yeah, I know. Breath of the Wild is kind of a brutal game.
What it is, yeah. I mean, like the whole storyline is kind of like, you failed, all your friends died. Good for you.
Get fucked, idiot.
But yeah, Skyward Sword
Trivia.
HD, it's actually July. It's coming out July 16th.
I'll be picking it up. For sure. That's all the news you have. I'll bring up a couple major anniversaries here that I have pulled up. Some good stuff. Before we move on to the main show. In April, Pokemon Gold and Silver turned 20. An underrated game, Kirby's Tilt and Tumble, also turned 20. That was released on the GBA. That was a fun game. Fun fact, you can't play it on the GameCube unless you are going to hold your GameCube.
Oh, right.
Let's see. Mother 3 turned 15. Maybe one day we'll get a port of that game.
No.
I mean, we got Trials of Mana, so like I can't say never anymore.
Yeah, but also remember this is Nintendo.
This is very
And they're
true.
allergic to making money. Animal Crossing turned 20 as well. So that's nice. And in May, we have some other stuff. Mario Party 3 turned 20. I'm going to butcher this, but I'm going to bring it up because it's a big anniversary, and also because, Steven, maybe you can unbutcher the title. Fire Emblem Seisen no Kaifu, that turned 25.
Oh, Genealogy of the Holy War. Oh, I love this one. Let's see. Seisen no Kifu? Keifu? I don't know. It's Genealogy of the Holy War.
Okay. Well, that turned 25, or will turn 25.
May 14th, yeah.
May 14th, yeah.
Oh, that's like This is on my list of games to talk about on the podcast.
Let's see here. Oh, this is going to make us all feel a little old, because it's not that old, but it is that old. New Super Mario Bros. On the DS turned 15.
Okay.
So, while it's like, okay, it was a fun game, that is not that far back in my memory. But, dang.
I've never played that. I've only played the Wii U one of New Super Mario.
Yeah.
Final Doom turns 25 at the end of the month.
Oh, wow. And it's still not very good.
And it's still not very good. Oof. Let's see, what else we got here? Oh, we have, there's a couple, there's one more, big one. This is probably, oh shoot, Metal Slug on the Neo Geo turned 25. And the Dragon Quest, which I guess this counts as the game and then also the series as a whole, turns 35 near the end of the month.
Mm-hmm.
So, happy 35th. Two other game-related anniversaries, but not specifically games. GameSpot, as of the 1st of May, turns 25, like the website. I definitely have gotten a lot of walkthroughs from GameSpot back in the day.
Yeah.
So that's kind of nice to see, and they're still around too, somehow. And then, last but not least here, Bungie turns 30 in May.
Nice.
So, and all of their, I mean, we've covered a fair amount of Bungie. Well, I think we've covered 2 Bungie games. I'm not gonna say a fair amount. We've covered 2 Bungie games.
We did Marathon and Halo 2.
Yep.
And then I know we've chit-chatted, at least you and I, Steven, have chit-chatted about Destiny a couple times.
Yeah.
To be fair, they didn't really make that many, Bungie hasn't made that many IPs. There's like Marathon, and is it like Pillar of Destiny or something like that, except that's also technically a sequel to Marathon.
Yeah, I'm not even
So
sure.
it's part of the Marathon series. And then they made Halo, and then they made Destiny.
Yeah.
So it's like whatever. They find what they can do, and then they do it until they can't do it anymore.
Yep.
They're not diverse at all, unfortunately. Maybe one day.
They are very adept at escaping from major AAA publishers, though.
This is true. Maybe some other in-house developers need to figure this out. Need to go over there and take some tips.
This is twice now they've snuck out of the basement.
Well, and it's more impressive the second time because they took their IP with them.
Yeah.
Before the last time they had to leave Halo behind, or they opted to leave Halo behind. This time they took their IP with them,
which is great. Like, I don't know how they did it, but holy crap!
Yeah, I'm really, really super surprised Activision let that one go, but they did. So, anyway, that ties up all the anniversaries. So, with that being said, I guess we'll take a quick break and jump into the meat of it. Alright, so we initially actually planned this for April, and then the universe happened.
I guess this was the biggest April Fool's joke of all.
Yeah, right. The real April Fool's joke is that you didn't even get the episode that was planned for April. You've heard of the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Well, now get ready for the Final Fantasy VII Demake, or some loops of the internet it's referred to as Final Fantasy VII NES.
Yeah.
This was, if I played the same one, because there might have been a couple cracks taken at it. This was developed by a Chinese company.
Yeah. Shenzhen Nanjing Technology.
Yeah, okay, so I did play the right one. For the Famicom clones. And it's probably loosely based off of like Final Fantasy 2 or 3. Maybe even just Final Fantasy. It's basically the same format as those games. Visually and sort of like mechanically too. But
Yeah.
it is a very liberal recreation of Final Fantasy VII,
And
but NES style.
Like liberal is the correct term, because you run into frickin' like Marlboros and Tonberries and Cactuars in the first area. Like, you run into some classic enemies that you wouldn't encounter till the end of the game in the first area.
Yeah, and the story is there.
Yeah, basically.
The story beats are more or less the same.
Yeah, they hand you a fair bit of the plot as best they can.
I didn't get far enough to see if this guy Sick made it in, but
I honestly didn't get very far into the game at all because it's fucking brutal.
yeah, it's kind of rough.
It is brutal very much as Final Fantasy. Well, just Final Fantasy is brutal. Like Final Fantasy 1 is a hard fucking game.
Yeah.
And all of the NES Final Fantasies are really hard fucking games. And I'm kind of curious if this wasn't a really elaborate ROM hack.
It basically kind of is.
So all of the mechanics are there, and they just had to basically dress up and add a couple things. I really highly doubt they developed this from the ground up.
The difficulty, though, I don't think the difficulty is there by design. I think the difficulty is there by random chance. Because Stephen just mentioned the monsters that come up in the plant at the start, and I think the monster generation is literally random encounters, like any monster from the game. A couple times I came across some pretty high level monsters that I couldn't beat with the team that I have, and I played it again and I come across a completely different set of monsters the second time around. I don't think it's designed to be that hard, but for whatever reason,
it just is.
Yeah, the people who developed this port decided that random encounters were really going to be random.
Yeah.
And they just put anything in rather than them being area specific as they are in Final Fantasy VII on the PS1.
Well, and I almost wonder if that was just a lack of coding or just a coding error.
I'm not sure, because the version that we played is kind of like gone through two different developers, because you had the original Chinese port, and the version that we played, or at least the version that I put in our Discord, was a ROM hack of that Chinese version, which translated it into English and fixed a few things as well. So it's hard to tell where one version starts and the other one ends, because I've not played the Chinese version.
Right. But overall, other than just being unenjoyably difficult, I appreciate what they did, mostly because it was fun as hell to see that. Aesthetically, in all of its 8-bit glory, I do like the classic Final Fantasy games. I would much rather watch them be played than play them. And slightly related, which is actually when we decided we were going to do this, and I got to see the sprite for Cloud, all I could think of was 8-bit theater.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since I've read through 8-bit theater. But there was a little tiny story arc where Cloud shows up as a time traveler.
Well, no, it was they were recruiting light warriors, and Cloud shows up. He's like, all right, he's like, all right, Cloud, what can you do? It's like,
he's like,
well, I can summon the gods to do my bidding. It's like, oh, summon me up a god. He's like, pose, camera flash, and boop, chocobo. And he's like, okay, what else you got? Well, I have a giant sword, and he's like struggling to pick it up.
He says something about, like, I can do fancy magic. He says something like, it's powerful, amazing, dazzling, time consuming.
Yeah.
That's immediately what I thought of.
The demake, like, it's okay. Like, I mean, you can see the work that was put in. I just honestly, I'd rather play one of the official versions.
Yeah, it's not without its bugs as well. Like, I actually had to play through the reactor twice, because on my way out, there's a corridor which is 3 blocks wide, if you leave the building on either the left or the right block, you will get stuck in the wall.
Oh, I didn't encounter that.
And you can't move. You cannot do a thing. You can't go back up. You can't go down. You can't go left. You can't go right. If you are not on that middle block when leaving, you will get stuck in that wall, and you will have to reset. So I had to do the reactor twice, which was a slog because of like the encounters that you get in there. And I didn't play much further than that. Honestly, I got to Tifa's bar, and that's where I left it. But in terms of like the overall project, it's an interesting concept. It's something fun to look at. It's not something that I would dig massively deep into, though.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, it's definitely a cool, novel thing, but not exactly, not something I'm going to return to over and over again.
I did want to talk about the music as well, because they recreated the music using the NES sound chip, or whatever the emulator equivalent is. Mm-hmm. Basically, note for note, they've just kind of like translated it onto that NES kind of sound, which as a technical achievement is fairly decent, but it sounds a little bit soulless. And I'll tell you why. When they did the Final Fantasy VII remake, they redid all the music with an orchestra, and they rearranged all of the tracks to work with an orchestra. If they had kept the original arrangements from the PS1 game and just played them with an orchestra, it wouldn't have worked.
No.
And the same thing here, taking that exact arrangement from the PS1 game and translating that over to the NES doesn't really work. It sounds fine, but it wasn't designed for the NES chip.
Right.
And the tracks needed to be rearranged to take advantage of that chip, because there are kind of like advantages and disadvantages to each console's sound chip. And it just leaves it feeling, like I said, like a little bit soulless. The music in the NES Final Fantasies sounds better than the music here, purely because they were designed for that chip. Right. And they were arranged with that chip in mind.
Yeah, they were composed around it.
I mean,
and that is, you would think it wouldn't be hard to recompose and rearrange music into NES and that 8-bit chip, but it is. It really is. And if you go and look up like chiptune and NES remakes of certain songs, it's often you get disappointed a lot.
As a technical achievement, it's decent enough. You can tell that some talented musicians worked on getting this soundtrack into the NES, but it needed an arrangement that worked with that chip rather than keeping the original arrangement, which is why the music just really didn't do anything for me, despite being perfectly fine in terms of translation.
Right.
The translation is fine, but it should have been done to take advantage of that chip. That was my main bugbear, really. That and the random encounters. Other than that, it's a nice little curiosity, nice little concept.
Yeah, I mean, I might work my way through it at some point. It's not a high priority for me.
I'll go find you a repro cart with it.
Oh, there's actually they actually sell cartridges.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, like I fully plan to buy one.
Just to have it?
Yeah, because, I mean,
one day people can be scrolling through your, or browsing through your games and be like, oh yeah, Final Fantasy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, wait a minute.
7.
This wasn't released on this console.
So, and my soon-to-be 3 different cases for Final Fantasy 14.
Right.
Only one of which actually works.
You're trying, man. Well, if NES wasn't old enough, you can go back even... Well, shoot, when was the... 1978?
We're talking about the Atari 2600,
Yeah, the Atari 2600.
1977, so not far off.
Okay, I was pretty close. Continuing the trend of demakes, although, you know what, technically, Halo has seen a few remakes within the Master Chief Collection. Anyway, other game we addressed for our demake episode was Halo 2600. I didn't know this existed.
I've known about it for a little bit.
Well, I guess it's semi-official. Like,
Yeah.
it's pseudo-official. Because it was made by someone who worked on Halo?
He didn't work on Halo, but he is a chief executive officer of one of the higher ups at Microsoft, who worked on the deal to bring Bungie into Microsoft.
Okay, into Bungie. Okay,
he is the uncle that works at Nintendo.
Okay, there we go. I knew it was a little bit more official than, say, the Final Fantasy VII remake.
Yeah, it was actually officially licensed and sold for retail.
Yeah, it got a release through Atari Age.
Oh, I didn't know that this got an official release.
Yep.
I missed that part. This is an official game.
Yeah, it basically started by this guy Ed Fries. He used to program games, and he went back and started developing for 2600 just as a play around. And he created some sprites, and he just decided, I'll create Master Chief as a sprite. And he wasn't going to do anything else with it. He was just testing his programming knowledge for the 2600. And friends of his kind of encouraged him to continue with that and try and actually make a full game based on Halo for the 2600. And it took him a while, but he eventually did it. And it's actually good.
It is.
It's a decent game.
This game actually basically hits and exceeds most Atari standards. Now, that's not saying that this is a deep game, but the fact is that Atari got a lot of trash on it. And even good Atari games had a tendency to be kind of meh. Doing adventure games on Atari is no easy thing, just because what you're limited with. That is such a severe hardware limitation.
Right.
So when you have a adventure game, walk around, shoot 'em up like this, it was done super well. Now, that being said, there's not a lot of game.
No.
Well, there's 64 screens, but you don't have to go through all of them.
No, you don't.
If you know where you're going, then it's a lot less. I think it took me about 20 minutes. I mean, I died on my first couple of attempts, but the one where I actually got through took me about 20 minutes. It's basically just like a top-down 2D shooter, and you just go around. There are aliens on the screens. They will fire at you. You've got to kill them before they kill you.
So was
pretty
else
standard stuff.
Was anybody else irritated that aliens can shoot at diagonals and you can't?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I was irritated that I couldn't shoot at all because apparently I never found the gun.
Yeah, it is literally one room up from the start point.
I don't know how I missed it.
It actually, I did get kind of I did get a little bit of a Zelda vibe where it's like, what do? I don't even have a weapon. Oh, I got to go get the gun.
Yeah, and there is a second upgraded gun further on in the game as well.
Oh, is there? Because everything already dies in one shot anyway.
Oh, it just fires faster.
Oh, okay, that's nice. Yeah, there's a couple areas where there's enemies right there in your face when you walk in.
A lot of them you can just run past, honestly.
We can get the Halo 2600 speedrunning community. Speaking of speedrunning, did any of you find the wing boots? The
No.
Pegasus boots?
No. I didn't find that.
Oh yeah, tucked away, there's a pair of boots that allow you to just haul ass. It like doubles your walking speed. Like you hustle.
Cool.
I don't know what upgrade that is in Halo. I never found it.
Doesn't exist as far as I know.
Yeah, but yeah, you get some quick boots.
Interesting.
I don't know why.
I might have to go in and look for them. It's a simple gameplay loop, but it's challenging, and it's fun to go through and dodge the enemy. I mean, I've mentioned a lot of times before, I'm quite into shmups, and it is a 4-directional shmup.
And the nice thing is like, oh, it is hard. You die. If you don't pick up a shield, you're dead in 1 hit. And even if you do pick up a shield, you're dead in 2 hits.
Yeah.
But it's nice because it's not like it's a big game, so if you do lose all your lives and have to go back, it's not like you lost a whole lot. Like you said, you died a couple times, Matt, and you were still done in like 20 minutes.
Oh no, my final attempt was 20 minutes.
Oh, okay.
And I probably played like 5 or 10 minutes on the other 2 attempts.
Okay, that's still not bad. I think maybe if we had gotten a few more games kind of like this on the Atari, consistently, if they had set a standard, maybe it would have done better.
Well, it did. It did gangbusters until the video game crashed.
Yeah, kind of.
But that's what I'm saying is like the great video game crash of the United States that actually didn't happen anywhere else was almost entirely because of Atari.
They were just putting out too much shovelware, completely flooding the market, and that's what caused the crash. As much as people want to blame it on ET,
was just the straw. ET was just the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah.
But yeah, that whole thing. I mean, I think we might have mentioned it before with the whole NES episode, but like the NES saved the U.S. video game market. At least it did it right away. I'm sure video games would have come back eventually.
And the whole thing of it was Nintendo were marketing it like a toy.
Mm-hmm. They didn't market it as a video game. They marketed it as a toy, which is the only reason Rob the Robot existed.
Yeah.
Which is funny because it's Robotic Operating Buddy the Robot.
But yeah, so like that's the only reason it even happened at all was because they had to sell it as a toy and not as a game console because people were terrified of the idea of a game console at the time.
Well, and it's also the reason that you didn't see any classic you never saw any official releases of Atari ports for a long time on the NES.
Mm-hmm.
If I had an Atari 2600, then I would definitely pick up this cartridge.
Oh, absolutely. The problem with getting a 2600 nowadays is that you basically have to go and refurbish them. If it's not working, you have to refurbish it. And if it is working and hasn't been refurbished, you're going to have to refurbish it soon.
Yeah.
You have to scrub them out and then replace capacitors, and it's just a whole nightmare, and wiring's usually starting to rot out. It's an ordeal to find one in good shape.
Same thing with Game Gears.
Yes, Game Gears are notorious for blowing capacitors. Now, what I am curious is one day, if I ever get my Atari VCS, will Halo 2600 be available on it?
Aside from being physically released, it is available digitally as a ROM for free.
Right.
Yeah.
But now, here's the other question. Is this the only Halo game that's been released on a non-Xbox console?
No, because they've been on PC.
No. Yeah,
okay.
PC.
On a non-Windows platform. How about that? On a non-Microsoft platform.
Arcades.
It was a Halo arcade?
Yeah. Halo Fireteam Raven.
Okay, I didn't know about that. Oh, you know what? And I also just realized that they dropped... Well, maybe they didn't. I thought they dropped one of the... what was it, like Halo Assault? Yeah, that released on iOS as well.
Yeah. There's not many, but there are some.
But this is certainly one of the better ones.
Honestly, this game is better than Spartan Assault. That game is designed for 4 people, and it's also not designed for 4 people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the difficulty curve is there for 4 people, but it's just not a very fun game. And having more people doesn't make it easier, as far as, like, managing your sanity.
Yeah.
I'm only saying this because I know that you're unable to punch me through the internet, but I prefer this to Halo 2. Like,
I am not I'm not a
we
huge
covered
fan of
that.
Halo 2.
We covered Halo 2 a while back, and, you know, I said it's really kind of not my thing, whereas I had a lot more fun with this.
Halo 2, here's the problem with Halo 2, now that we're not doing that episode.
Mm-hmm.
Halo 2, and I probably said this at the time as well, it is way too arena-y. You walk into an area, you get stuck in an area, you have to fight a bazillion bad guys in order to progress.
Yes.
In Halo, and in Halo 3, and in Halo Reach, that does occasionally happen, but you can actually blitz past a lot of enemies and just take out what you need to keep moving.
Yeah.
You
can run for it.
It's sort of the key to combat. It's like, yeah, why would you have to kill every last thing? You have to kill the biggest threat. What's stopping you? You need to kill what is in your way. This is... You don't need to wipe out the entire army. In Halo 2, a lot of those fights you couldn't bypass unless you, like, clicked onto the top of the map or something like that. There was a lot of fighting that you just had to fight.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. Like, you know, I recognize Halo 2 is not the best example of FPS. It's just the best one that I had to hand for that episode.
Yeah. And, I mean, it was nice. And Halo 2 did have some of the best multiplayer, especially considering how new Xbox Live was. Like, brand new it was.
And considering I played some Halo 2 online multiplayer with one of my college roommates in 2008.
They kept those servers online for a really long time.
Yeah.
So, props to Microsoft for holding stuff together. Or not Microsoft, I guess that was Bungie at the time.
Yeah.
For holding it together. But then, like, Bungie closed down the... I remember this was probably back in 2012 or 13, maybe. Bungie announced that they were shutting down the Halo 3 servers.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, the day after they closed down, Microsoft announced, or 343 announced that they were opening them back up.
Jerks.
It had to do with that transfer of power.
Yeah.
So I guess that might have been like late 2011. But they're just like, Bungie's like, we're not supporting this anymore. Sorry, we had a good run. And then 343 was like, you still want to play this, don't you? And then they kept them open for quite a few years before they were finally like, no, we can't do this anymore.
Right.
We have too many Halo games we're trying to support. So, but yeah, no, I would dare to agree with you, Matt. This might be better than Halo 2.
I mean, it's definitely shorter.
Man, Halo 2 had a good story, but damn, it felt like a long game. Like, I know it was longer, but it wasn't that much longer, but it felt really long.
Yeah.
I might sit back down and play and just try to find all 64 rooms, just map it out, because I'm pretty sure it's just a square.
Mm.
Like the map for 2600, I'm pretty sure it's just a square.
I mean, probably.
So I'm looking at the speedruns for Halo 2600, and the any percent speedrun is 14 seconds.
Oh, God.
But there are no records on the site for a warpless run. So I'm not entirely sure what the general time is. All of the speedruns are like glitched runs that I can find. Looking at some videos, it seems that maybe about 15 minutes. Looking at complete playthroughs, they look to be around about 14, 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I found one that was like 7 minutes, and I think he died in it too. Like, he died and reset. Like, right at the beginning.
Yeah.
15 minutes is probably right about right.
If you want to see like a good behind the scenes of this game, the YouTube channel Stop Skeletons from Fighting has a pretty short video. So it's only like 12 minutes long, but it gives kind of like an overview of how this game came about. They interview Ed Freeze, and it's a nice little backstory to the game. Definitely worth checking out.
Nice.
And like I said, the ROM is freely available online as well.
I always felt that a little bit of 343 should take a second, and they should go and make the Halo trilogy, but they should do it Contra style.
What, like a run and gun?
Yeah, just do a quick running gun, and they don't have to do. They could super abridge it, or even if they do just classic Halo, where it's just like, oh yeah, what do? Well, you're the Master Chief, and you start out and you just have half a dozen levels, but then each level has you having like a big boss battle. Like the first level has you finish fighting a hunter, and the hunter is, of course, your Master Chief, but this hunter is like 20 feet tall in comparison. It's taking up half the screen, and it shoots big blasts. You have platforms that you have to jump between, and then there's like a giant wraith tank that you have to fight at the end of another level. I don't know. I felt that would be a lot of fun if they just did a original trilogy Contra style. I've thought that for years.
It'd probably work. I mean, they did Mini Doom, I think it was called, which is a similar kind of concept for Doom, which was a side-on 2D run and gun platformer shooter.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, it was all right. I think there's a video of it on my YouTube channel actually. But yeah, I could see that actually getting some traction and being quite popular.
Games like that are a lot of fun, and I felt Halo deserved it. And like I said, I didn't know this existed, and I think it deserved this too. Also, I think I will post up on Twitter a link to Halo 2600 for that ROM, so maybe some other people can see it and give it a shot.
Yeah, no, it's totally worth checking out.
It's totally worth checking out. It's a lot of little fun. I'll take a quick break, come back, and send it all off.
Yep.
Well, we hope you enjoyed our little delve into either the latest April Fool's joke or possibly the best April Fool's joke of all time. Other than Final Fantasy, I thoroughly enjoyed all the games on the list. I don't know about you.
All the remaining game.
All the remaining game. All your base, all your game, or belong to us. So, thanks for tuning in, and until next time, goodbye.
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 Visit RetroOdysseyPodcast.com to find our latest episodes and all of our social media links.
This is essentially a shmup, a 4-directional shmup.
Yeah.
Shmup.
What?
I can't even say the word. I can't even say the word. A 4-dimensional shmup.
There we go. Four-dimensional.
Jesus Christ! I will string a sentence together. It is a 4-directional shmup.
We'll cut that other part out.